At the beginning of the week, I shared how the past several years around Christmas time, I prayed and asked the Lord to teach me something new about the Christmas story. I didn't want to get comfortable or let the power of the story become mundane. This week, we've been diving deeper into the Christmas story. We started with the muted messenger, followed by the meek mother, and yesterday had the faithful father. If you missed any, hop over to my website, comealivewithcandace.com, to get caught up. Today, we are wrapping up with our focus being on the boy Jesus. We will be in Luke chapter 2, verses 41 through 52. Over the last month, these 11 verses have made the biggest impact on my view of the Christmas story. And I know technically it's not a part of the night Christ was born, but it's so very crucial to include this to tie it all together. Because the prophecies leading up to his birth and then this moment when Jesus went from boy to man, crucial. John Steinbeck said, "A boy becomes a man when a man is needed." I heard this quote in a recent series titled "Stand Firm and Be Men," and it hit home as my oldest son is 12, the same age as Jesus was during these verses. Now, I'm not comparing my son to Jesus, let's not go there, but to understand the maturity level of Jesus, yet the capacity he had to pursue the shift into manhood is truly amazing. But let's go back to verse 41, where Jesus and his parents were in Jerusalem for the annual festival of the Passover. Okay, guys, this alone has some crazy symbolism, but for time's sake, they are celebrating the transformation from oppression to freedom like they experienced in Exodus 12. And as we know the end here, what did Christ come to do for us? Yes, bring us freedom from the oppression of sin. Wow. All right, moving on. And while Jesus' parents did move on, in fact, they kept moving on their journey home until they realized Jesus was not with them. And this happened for an entire day. They literally lost the Son of God. Verse 33 tells us, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem. The boy, Jesus. Hold on to that. But back to his parents. Once they did realize he was gone, it took them 3 days to find him again. More symbolism? You bet. But we'll come back to that in a minute. Verses 46 and 47 says, after 3 days, they found him in the temple courts, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. Everyone who heard him was amazed at his understanding and his answers. Then verse 48 goes on to say, when his parents saw them, they were astonished. Yet his mother said to him, son, why have you treated us like this? Your father and I have been anxiously searching for you. Anxiously searching for Jesus. Have you been there? Are you maybe there right now? I mean, I know sometimes we think that Jesus is the one that's gotten lost in our life, but friends, the reality is we are the lost ones. And when we always keep searching for things until we truly find, embrace, and accept Jesus is the presence that we need in our lives. But the story's not over. Because after Mary confessed her anxiety, Jesus responded with his first words ever recorded in the Bible. And of course, it's in the form of a question. Why were you searching for me? Didn't you know I had to be in my Father's house? This is the very first mention of God being a father, which, as I mentioned the other day when the angel visited Mary, he called Jesus the Son of the Most High and the Son of God. So Jesus knew his rightful place and his heavenly Father. These 11 verses are solid gold. There is so much to unpack. We can't even scratch the surface of it, you guys. But through it all, this right here was the deepest impact the Lord's revealed to me this Christmas season. Since the beginning of time, Jesus was the plan. He was in the details. So at Christmas, we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. And on that holy night, one we will never forget. And then we also remember the day when our freedom was delivered on that cross. Not that day, but 3 days later when he rose again. Yet I believe there is a detail in between those two dates, one that deserves credit, and that's when Jesus went from boy to man. Verse 43 says, the boy Jesus stayed in Jerusalem. And then in verse 51 it says, then Jesus went down to Nazareth with his parents and was obedient to them. The boy Jesus, just 12 years old and at the cusp of manhood, stayed in his father's house. And then, I believe it was a man that left that day. Why do I think that? Because back to John Steinbeck's quote, a boy becomes a man when a man is needed. And the reality is there was a desperate need for freedom over oppression, for the lost to be found, and for that to be Jesus. And I believe with all my heart that Jesus' ministry didn't start when he was 30 years old, but it started there in that temple, in his father's house, as just a boy that embraced the need to be the man that God sent him to be. Have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.